Hey, beautiful people, beautiful people. Oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to my Big Full Authentic Life Live Real Talk Edition. I am so happy that you chose to join me on this Wednesday afternoon. You could have been doing so many other things, but you chose to be here today, and I certainly do appreciate that. This is just our second live, and I'm really, really excited about this because there was a lot of engagement the last time, and I believe that we're going to do that again tonight. And it's important. It's important because we're trying to present positivity. We're trying to present ways that people can actually heal, that people can actually um, that people can actually grow, that people can actually grow from from what we're doing here. And I'm excited. I'm excited to be able to offer that to you. And today I want to jump right into it. So last Wednesday we released an episode called Big Breakthrough with Keisha Simon, and it was her story. It was her story of reinvention or invention. It was her story of overcoming trauma and drug addiction. I'm talking about, you know, 36 felonies, 37 felonies, 36 years of being addicted to crack cocaine, being addicted to heroin, alcoholism, and all kinds of things. And she has completely turned her life around. And I felt like this would be the ideal moment or ideal conversation to have with our audience. So, if you would do me a favor, if you would like this video, if you would share this live, if you would let your friends know to come and check it out, because I think that there's going to be a lot of insights shared on tonight, and we will also have the opportunity to speak with her daughter, who may be joining us a little bit later as well. So we're really excited about that, and so without any further messing around, please welcome Keisha Simon. Keisha, how are you, lady?
Hi, Andre.
Listen, I am so happy that you chose to join me on tonight. Let me get this thing right here. I don't want you out here looking. Wow, there we go. We
Crazy.
got you. We
Yeah,
got you
yeah,
straight.
don't
We
have me
got you
looking
straight.
crazy.
We got you straight. And I tell you, I am your episode really was one that your episode was really one that a lot of people watched, and it garnered a lot of attention. And I
Okay.
appreciate you being so transparent
Right,
in what you shared.
right.
Because I really believe it helps a lot of people. So yeah, go ahead.
Mhm. Yeah, it garnered a lot of positive feedback from my end. There was a little negativity surrounding it, and but that's to be expected anytime. But what I've noticed is that anytime I set out to do something positive or something where my intention is to help other people, I don't like to use the word the devil because I don't believe in no this red guy with the horns and all of that. But I do believe in negative forces, negative energy. There's always been tribulation and turbulence anytime I've tried to help people or transition to another level. That's always an indication to me that I am on the path that I am supposed to be on.
Absolutely. Well, and let me do this before we go any further. I think it's
Okay.
important that I make this statement because I said that it would in complete transparency. I think we have to
Right.
in order just to maintain integrity in what it is that we
Exactly.
do. So I received some feedback from two of Keisha's family members, and it was
Mhm.
regarding her appearance on the My Big Full Authentic Life podcast. And these family members strongly dispute certain aspects of Keisha's story and how she shared it and what she shared. But as always, our podcast aims to provide a platform for people to share their personal stories and experiences. And we encourage our audience really to consider multiple perspectives of a
Mhm.
situation. And I did that because, when I was contacted, it was important for me to let everyone to let everyone know that we're transparent here. This is about living authentically, and
Right.
sometimes people don't agree. Sometimes people don't
Right.
see things the way that you see it, and sometimes people just are straight out in opposition to what it was
Right.
that whatever the situation was. And so I
Right.
said that I would do that, and I did, and I think that
Right.
that's about the best that I could do in the
Right.
situation. So
Exactly. There's always the expected, Lamondre, with me, especially when I am talking about things that are taboo and
hmm
things that are ugly and things that are not positive. Um, there's reasons why I don't or didn't and still don't call people out by name because I feel like I am only responsible for sharing my story. I
hmm
can't tell anybody else's story. I can't tell you what your truth is because your truth is the way that you perceive it or how you take it. My truth, on the other hand, is exactly what it is. And I stand on my truth in everything that I have said. And first of all, I want to say this: it is not easy to get in front of, I don't know how many people, and tell a story that doesn't necessarily portray me in the best light. I didn't come on here and say, okay, well, I'm Miss Keisha and this is what I'm doing today and I'm perfect and I've never. No, that's not what I said. I told my story leading up to today and where I am and what I'm accomplishing and intend to accomplish moving forward. And it is absolutely not easy to say that I was molested by a family member. And no
right.
point did I say that I was raped by a family member because that's not what happened. I
Okay.
have been raped, but it wasn't by the same person that touched me when I was younger. I was
So
an
this is thi-
adult.
s- so this is what I want to do at this point, because what I
Okay.
don't want to do is get into the details of that, because as of right
Okay.
now things are very, very, very no one would know. No one would have any idea of what even the accusations were
Okay.
in terms of the dispute. And so in order
Okay.
to maintain the privacy
Okay.
of yourself and those concerned, I think it's important that we don't go point by point to dispute what was
Okay.
said. And I think that
That that works for me.
that's the best way to handle that situation. But what I do want to do is I want
Okay.
to, for the people who did not get the opportunity, um, for the people who did not get the opportunity to hear the broadcast, I want you to give I want you to give a brief rundown of your history, a very brief rundown of your history, so that people can
Okay.
understand it. Because a lot of people watching live now did not get the opportunity to see the actual podcast, and I also put the links up to where they can go back and check it out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, well, anytime I share my story, it always starts back to my childhood because my childhood has built me into the woman that I am today. And I discussed some things that happened to me during my childhood, such as being sexually molested by a family member, starting to drink alcohol at the age of 5 years old. I was not given alcohol by any family member. I went in the refrigerator and took pink champagnes that my grandmother used to have in the refrigerator, and I drank that. I spoke about starting to smoke marijuana probably about 12 or 13 years old, starting to do powdered cocaine at around 15 or 16. I talked about how me and my friend, God bless the dead, Michelle Saunders, used to be in the park selling cocaine and snorting cocaine and not not even knowing the type of substances that we were consuming at that time. I spoke about having abandonment issues from never really having lived with my mother, whom I left at 2 weeks old. I spoke about not raising my children the way I should have. I spoke about having 37 felony convictions on top of countless misdemeanors. I spoke about having 5 trips to prison, 3 state bids, 2 federal bids. I spoke about starting to smoke crack cocaine at the age of 18 and continuing to just 21 months ago. So that's a 35, 36 year period that I consumed crack cocaine. I spoke about becoming addicted to opioid painkillers after having a back surgery, and then that leading into the heroin abuse. I spoke about not being able to have a bond with my children from being so strung out on drugs. I spoke about the decision to come into treatment and to get help, and some of the things that I had to process, learn about, forgiving other people, forgiving myself, to be able to be in a position today where I can be accountable for all of that. My past has absolutely no sting today at all because I accept that. I'm accountable for that. The one thing I cannot do is go back and undo anything that I've done. So I choose not to carry it around with me because that's dead weight. I have
Right.
processed it. I've been through treatment. I've been through therapy. And now I'm in a position where I can turn around and I can give that to other people. There are probably thousands of things about my past that I left out because we're talking about a 36-year crack addiction on top
36
of
years.
drinking and smoking for 40 plus years. So I'm sure there's plenty I left out. Anything I left out, if I did it, I own it. Because guess what, Lamondre? All of those things that I did them.
Yeah.
But that makes my story even more powerful. Because
Yes.
in through all of that, it didn't break me. Through all of that, I was able to climb up out of that and not be angry and bitter. I no longer allow myself to be victimized
Right.
because when I have a victim mentality, that prevents me from being accountable, and that doesn't work. By me saying I'm no longer a victim, by no means am I saying that I wasn't hurt or that this didn't happen or that didn't happen. That just means that today, as we sit here, I cannot use those things as an excuse to
Right.
continue to not evolve in life. I cannot use those things as an excuse to remain stagnant. I can no longer use those things as an excuse to be ugly, to be bitter, to be mean, to mistreat people, to go out and steal, to drink, to drug. I don't have those excuses anymore. Those excuses have been removed. And today I have to deal with life on life's terms.
Absolutely.
Is
Absolutely.
that always easy? Absolutely not. Does that mean that every day is a good day? Absolutely not. But it means that I now know how to regulate my emotions. I
Right.
now know how to process when someone hurts my feelings. I
Right.
now know how to go back and say, hey, I'm sorry I said that to you, or I'm sorry I did that. I know how to be accountable for my actions, which allows me to live a life today where I don't require any type of chemical substances to be okay. and to be happy and to be productive. So
Right.
basically, I'm no longer a slave to my addiction anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, and thank you for going back through that. And if anybody wants to actually hear more of her story, go check out the original broadcast. We'll post it in the comments. We'll post the links for both YouTube as well as the audio versions, because her story is really in depth. It's inspiring. It's it will make you upset. It will make you um and it'll make you realize just the depths of what it just the depths of what humans can go through, because it is indeed a lot. And just some of the comments that are coming in, and I see that here, some of the comments that are coming in from Wesley says, no matter how many times you fall, it's always how many times you pick yourself back up. And I would definitely agree
Yes.
with that. Definitely agree with that. Betty Pugh says, amen. Amen. That's my mother
Amen.
right there. She
Yeah.
gave you the
Hi,
amen.
Mom. Yeah,
Absolutely.
because Lamondre, there will never be a time in our lives where we won't fall down or where things won't go wrong. I used to think when I first got into recovery, I thought that I would go off somewhere and these people, I don't know if I thought they had a magic pill, or I don't know if I thought they was going to do some hocus pocus stuff, but I thought that once I went there and went through the program, then they were going to fix me. And that would be it. And from that moment on, my life would just be all sunshine and
Right.
roses. And that's not how it works. Like, recovery doesn't work like that. Once I came into recovery and once I was able to get all of the drugs and the toxins and the poison out of my system, then I was just left with me.
Right.
And I'm going to reiterate what I said previously in your podcast. I found out very quickly that I did not like myself. I did not like myself at all, which was why I was able to play Russian roulette basically for all of those years, risking my life by consuming the amount of drugs and alcohol that I did. So I didn't have a me to get back to. And honestly, being 3,000 miles away from everybody I know, I'm out in California completely on my own. I felt like failure was not an option and there was no room for error. So, what do I need to do to make sure that I swim and I don't sink? And what
Right.
I found out really quickly was that there was not a pill that anyone could give me. There was not nothing that I could read in a book that was going to make everything just magically okay. I had to dig down deep. I had to come up with some real hardcore honesty about my past,
Right.
about my life the way it really was, and not the smoke and mirrors that I tried to present to other people, because for so many years I was a very functional addict.
Yeah.
I didn't leave home until I was 26 years old. I left home January of 2003 and I moved into an apartment, Section 8 apartment in Columbia Gardens. And by that time, I had already had two children, but I also already had a drug addiction. So
Right.
there was never a point in time in my adult life where I was a normal functioning adult. I may have put off that appearance because of the way I was able to function to some level while I was using, and because I never necessarily broke down my physical appearance, and I could pretty much keep a roof over my head and keep a vehicle, and of course I could keep clothes and things like that because I have 37 felonies. I did credit card fraud.
Right.
So to some people on the outside looking in, even though they may or may not have known what I was doing, I don't think anybody knew the extent of what I was doing. I don't think anybody knew how sick I really was. As a matter of fact, I don't even think I knew
Yeah.
how sick I was. It took me to get outside of that, to get all of that out of my system, to go through treatment, to go through counseling, to work on myself. And because I didn't have a me to get back to, I took that as an opportunity instead of letting it be a negative. Like, oh my God, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. That wasn't my mentality. It was like, okay, I don't know who I am. So who do I want to be?
Right.
Kind of like I
So
always say about the Build a Bear.
right. So this is what I want to do because I really wanted you to kind of go through that so people can get an understanding of
Okay.
of what your experience was. But I do want to do this, and this is what I need from the audience. I need you all, if this is resonating with you, I love to see in the comments, but I need you also to let me get some likes. We need to get the likes up so that the algorithm will show this to more people. And Hope, I see you. My Hope said, accountability is the key to growth and success, and it looks beautiful on you, love. So that was from
Thank you.
Hope. And a
Thank you,
young man,
Hope.
yeah, yeah. And then someone by the name of Brandon Henderson said, are you the same as Keisha from Columbia Gardens, about 97, 98? If so, hey, Miss Keisha,
Yes. Yes, that is me.
one and the
I moved
same.
there in 96. That's me.
One and the same. So this is
Yeah.
the line of question that I want us to move to, and this is what I'm going to do. Also,
Okay.
I'm going to put the links for the actual original podcast, so you can hear her story in more detail.
Okay.
So if you want to watch the video, you certainly can, or if you want to check it out from the audio versions of it, you certainly can as well. So we're going to put that on the link right now. There we go.
Okay.
Those are the
And
links to that.
Madre, I can't answer my phone right now, but Ashley is asking how does she get in?
You're already in, Ashley. You just got to wait for me to bring you over there. Okay. So I will
Okay.
bring
Okay.
you
I just want
in.
to make
Okay.
okay.
Yep. I got her. I got her. So Keisha, so this is
Hmm.
I hear you, and you're going through all of what you did, and it's beautiful and it's inspiring how you really
Hmm.
handled those things. But the question I have for you, at some moment, there was a point of
Hmm.
realization. There was a point that
Hmm.
triggered that for you to make that change, because it wasn't just that one day you decided and that was it. There had to be
Right.
something that brought you to the realization of what it was. What was it that brought you to the realization that you actually had to do something to make a change, to get sober? What was that thing that did that for you?
I lost a lot of people. I buried two sisters and two brothers to this disease, Lamondre, and I lost a cousin that I loved very deeply, right in my presence. I was in the room with her when she passed away, and my best friend passed away, and it just got real, and it got scary, and I got afraid. When my youngest son left the house, it was just me and my dog. And as long as I had something to take care of, I could pretty much kind of keep my head above water. I got
Mhm.
arrested for selling drugs up on Farrow Road, and unfortunately, Tank got hit by a car, and he didn't make it. And that was a breaking point for me. And that was the very first time that I've ever been completely alone. And when I didn't have anyone or anything counting on me to show up and make something happen, I realized really quickly that I could not do that for myself. It did not take long for me to lose the house, for me to lose the car, to end up couch surfing and just living in basically in just utter desperation. I've never been homeless to the point where I had to sleep outside, but I have been without my own residence and have to have been dependent on others to keep a roof over my head. So when I realized that there was something wrong, normally I would fall off and I could bounce right back. I fall off and I bounce right back because I had like Isaiah depending on me, or I had someone depending on me, needing me to come through, needing me to provide housing, needing me to provide clothing, needing me to provide food. When I didn't have that and I was only responsible for myself, my self hate and the way I despised myself, the lack of self love showed up really quickly. I'm talking about in a matter of just a couple of months. And I reached out to my daughter and I wrote her a letter. And then I didn't give it to her, but I left it in her truck and she found it. So
Mm.
now I've exposed my truth. Now I'm kind of in between a rock and a hard place. So when she calls me up and say, "Mom, I have the letter," and I'm like, "What
And
letter?"
now is
And
now was this
she's
your
like,
daughter Ashley?
"It is. I only have one daughter."
Okay, good deal.
And she asked, did I want to go to treatment? And for the first time ever, I said yes. I've never been to treatment before, not anybody's treatment outside of the residential treatment program that I completed when I was in federal prison. And then once I remember I got caught drinking in junior high school and I was required to go to some outpatient AA meetings at Lorettac. But of course, I was 15 at that point, and I didn't benefit anything from it. So once Ashley opened the door for me to go to treatment, I prayed and I ended up with the insurance to make it happen. Me thinking I'm going to have some time to party, that didn't happen. I told her on a Thursday, and Sunday she had me on a plane going to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And even with that, Lamondre, I still wasn't ready because I went to the airport with enough drugs to last me about 2 weeks. I'd never been to treatment before. I didn't know what to expect. So I took my stuff with me. I went through two airports, missing planes and everything because I'm getting high in the bathroom. And when I arrived at Journey Pure in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, in the intake office, I just had, I don't know if you want to call it an epiphany. I don't know if you want to say that God tapped me on my shoulder. I don't know if it was a moment of clarity, but I thought to myself, if I go through this door, would lead to the back where the treatment is, if I go through this door with these drugs and with this alcohol, nothing's going to change.
Mm.
Nothing's gonna change. I didn't know what was on the other side. I had no idea what sobriety was like, but I knew what active addiction was like, and it couldn't have been no worse than that. So
Right.
to me, walking through that door and handing the nurse, or better yet, hiding the drugs in the trash can in the intake room, was the moment that I decided that I would give this a try. But even at that point, I had no idea what to expect. I had really had no idea where I was. I
Mhm.
didn't know what was going to happen. I just didn't know. All I knew was that I had to do something because I didn't want to die.
And so
And I was surely
no, go ahead. Finish your statement.
and I was surely going to die had I
Right.
continued, especially with the amount of heroin and crack that I was consuming towards the end of my run.
And so had it not been for your daughter Ashley finding that letter, chances are you would
Hmm.
not have made that. So this is what I want to do.
No,
Ashley's
I would
with
not,
us.
never would have.
Yeah. So this is what I want to do. I want to bring Ashley on now, okay? She's with us. Let's hear. Hey
Look at
Ashley,
my baby.
welcome. You.
Hi, Lamondre. Hey, Mama.
Hey, beautiful.
So, Ashley, you found this letter. Tell me about that. What was that experience like for you? And what did finding that letter mean to you when you read it?
hmm So, one thing I'll tell anybody is I'm nosy and I like to investigate. I'm a social worker and I like to figure stuff out. I know my mom, she likes to keep notebooks and take notes. And so anytime she leaves anything in my car, and I don't know if you know this, but I've always read through notebooks and things that she's left around me. And it was just a habit. And so when I found it, it was really thick. And so that kind of concerned me because prior to this, my mom was actually staying with me. This was before she was arrested, before she lost her dog. And during that time, she started to write different types of letters about if
Mhm,
I'm not here, this is what I want you
mhm,
to do. Um,
mhm,
just preparing as if something bad was going to happen. And so when I
mhm,
found the letter in my car, that is what prompted me to really read it and make sure, like, has something different happened? Like, what's going on now? Because 1 to 2 pages before, this is like 5, 6 pages. Like, what's going on with this one? And so when I read the letter, it was a lot that she shared with me about her addiction and just how bad she realized things had become for her. And it was a lot that I could already see. And it was times that I would ask her questions and she would
yeah.
say, no, absolutely not. Why do you keep accusing me of this? So that letter, in a sense, was comforting for me because I know my mom. Like I've seen
Mhm.
her have, good times when she was able to be stable, but I knew this time was different. So when I found that letter and she said she wanted to go to treatment, I said, oh no, we have to jump on this because she's never been to this point. So what can
Right.
I do to help her get to that point? And like I said, I felt a sense of relief because a majority of my
Mhm,
life, I did not grow up with my mom. And I
Right.
always had that yearning for her. I always had this image in my mind of who my mom is. And it was that point where I said, okay, I think I'm going to be able to have my mom, the one that I always wanted, the one that I always knew she could be. This is probably that opportunity.
Right.
And so that was my motivation to really help her, because I'll help her through anything. Like, you know, it's been years, and it's been a lot of
Yeah.
times where I've been burned and I would do things and it would just blow up in my face, but that never changed her being my mom. It never changed me feeling her spirit or knowing her heart. I just knew that she was sick and she needed help and she
Right.
needed to get to that point where she would be willing to accept the help. And so when I found that letter, I said, okay, this is it. We gotta, take this
Gotta
and
go. You
go.
saw the open door. You saw the open door there.
Yeah.
Keisha, as you're listening to her
mhm.
say that, I see you're getting emotional. Tell me where that's coming from.
Um, just sometimes, even though I am where I am right now, there are moments that I will get these flashes and these memories of when I wasn't the person that she needed me to be, and when I wasn't a good mom, and when I put drugs and men before my children and not giving them the love and the care that they deserved, being incapable of bonding with my children, and just sometimes I'll just think like, they didn't deserve any of that. And
Mhm.
Ashley is, I don't know, I ask her all the time, why do you love me? Why do you love me the way that you do? And it's just, I mean, through jails, through prison, state prison, federal prison. I mean, homeless. I just, co-signing for cars, and I don't make the payment, and I've had bills in her name, and it would take me forever to tell you, how unfit and unkind I was to this child at some points. But I have never disrespected her. I've never cursed her. I've never called her out of her name. I may not have shown up where I was supposed to, but I wasn't abusive towards her. But just the fact that she has always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself, she has always loved me. She's never treated me any differently. It just blows my mind. And when I look at her and I look at everything that she's accomplished in spite of my mess, she took the another route. It's like, okay, I'm not going to use this as an excuse. In this instance, I don't want to be, like my mom. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I mean, she went from high school straight to Winthrop. She has 2 bachelor's degrees from Winthrop. She's got a master's in social work from the University in Michigan. She's in the master's of business now. She's got an amazing job. And to me, she's my shiro. But she's always been elevating, and she's always been in a field of helping people. I tell anybody, I want to be like my daughter. Like, she's
Mhm.
what I aspire to be. And when I say she is my shiro, she is definitely that, because I don't know if I've ever told her or not, but
Tell her now.
I look at your life, Ashley, and everything that you have accomplished in spite of the other routes that you could have taken, in spite of not having a mom on deck, in spite of not having my support, in spite of being born with the addictive genes that I passed down to you, in spite of the neighborhood that you grew up in, where there was a lot of gang banging and your friends were getting pregnant and dropping out of school, and you superseded, like, you have surpassed, like, all of other people's expectations, but not mine. Because the same way you believed in me, I knew from the time I had you what you were destined to be. But I look at your life now, and the fact that you went through everything that you went through and never used any of that to cop out, to be mediocre, to be less than, to be bitter. Instead, you engage and you help people, and you're kind and you're loving and you're motivated and you're determined. That motivates me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That motivates me. You didn't let anything stop you. Nothing. And I admire you so much. You already know you're my best friend. Like, I just feel like you are what I aspire to be. You're my shiro.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. So, Ashley,
Oh.
when you hear your mother say that, and when your mother asks you the question, "Why do you love me so much?" What is your answer?
Whew, somebody had to. Somebody
Mm,
had to. That's just what it is, because growing up, I heard
that's a
so many
serious
negative.
answer.
Yeah, so there heard so many negative things about her, like, the
Mhm.
relative that I grew up with, she would always call her names, and, it was to the point where I remember I had a yearbook, and my mom, she wrote on a page in my yearbook, and she put, "I love you," and this relative blacked out my mom saying, "I love you." Like, it was that bad, like, I heard so many
A
negative things,
relative
and
scratched out in your yearbook that your mother loved you?
yes. So anytime when my mom said, "I love you," it was a black marker, and she scratched through it, or she would tear the page out. Like, I remember that. And this same relative also told me that if I ever left her, to stay with my mom would turn me into a prostitute. Like, it was a lot of negative things that I heard. And we're laughing because now, this person is deceased, but knowing her personality, that's exactly, what she would say. But for a child to hear that, it is
Right.
very traumatizing. And
Right.
just through it all, I just felt in my spirit. And, I prayed for my mom often. And I'm like, she can't be this bad of a person because I'm here. Like, I have brothers. Like, we're
Mm,
children she brought into this world, so she can't be that bad. And so that was a lot of my drive for not turning against her. And
yeah.
hearing so many negative things, I'm like, well, who loves her? I have to love her. So
Mm.
that's why I say someone had to do it.
Well,
And I don't feel
go ahead.
obligated to do it. I really feel like genuine, agape love. Like, I
Yeah.
you
That
know
God love,
that's
right?
what I feel towards her, that God love. Like, it's not just me, because I have my times when I am angry. I do get frustrated. I do have
Of course.
memories of things that I wish could have been different, but that God love is instilled in me, and that's where it comes from.
You know what? So beautiful, so beautiful. And I want to share some of the comments that have been coming through. Um, Wendy said, "This is so beautiful, healing." Stephanie said, um, "Such a powerful story." Um, Wesley said, "It was the foundation that you needed." And I want to share this because, and also Cocoville said, "It's not what you do, it's how you do it. I think you're amazing, Miss Keisha, and I thank God for sending you to
Um,
our
thank
podcast."
you.
She's saying that because she's also my assistant. She says, "I know you're touching someone because you have certainly inspired me." And so those are just a
Thank
few
you.
of the comments. But another comment that I want to go to is really a question. First of all, it's from Brandon, and Brandon said this. He says that I'm a
Mhm.
few years older than you, Ashley, but I remember you too. I don't know if you remember
Oh,
Brandon
thanks, Brandon.
Henderson.
I'll have to see your face.
Right. But he also asked the question, and it's a great question, and it's to you,
Mhm.
Ashley. And he wanted to know, or he was curious if your choice of career in social work was influenced by your mom's addiction. That's the first part of it. And what other direct impacts of addiction has had on you. So it's a two-part question.
Yes, so absolutely. It definitely has a huge impact on the career that I chose. And when I went to Winthrop, I actually started out as a psychology major because I was just curious. How do people end up, the way that they are? How do people who grow up in the same household go on completely different
Mhm.
paths, being in the same environment? What makes people tick and make the decisions that they do? So I was always curious, and a lot of that did come from what I knew about my mom's addiction. And that led me to social work, where I wanted to be more hands on and actually not just learn about why, but understand why, but then also have a hand in the solutions, figuring out, okay,
Mhm.
this is why. So what can we do about it? So that's how I
Yeah.
ended up in both psychology and social work as a double major. And absolutely. And I remember when I was preparing my statement of purpose to be admitted into graduate school, I talked a lot about my mom's addiction in that statement. And I kind of really set then the path that I wanted to go on, as far as assisting people who were experiencing homelessness or addiction, youth who experience issues with substance abuse. But that's kind of where I made up in my mind what I wanted to do because of seeing how it impacts my mom. And then to answer your second question, Brandon, the impact that it's had on me personally, um, I learn through observation. So if I see people going through things
Yeah.
and it does not turn out well for them, I say, okay, you went through that. I'm not going to do that. So, and that has been very helpful for me in my career as a social worker, because it's given me a different perspective where I can see beyond what the current situation is. And it
Mhm.
has prepared me to be able to think of so many different outcomes, different situations, and how do I navigate this to create the best situation. So that is one way that it's impacted me. And also just knowing that, how rampant addiction is in my family, I choose not to use any substances. So I don't
Mhm.
smoke. If I do drink anything, it's very rare, maybe once or twice a year. But I absolutely try to stay away from those substances. And that teaches me to live life and enjoy life without having to lean on anything as a crutch.
Right. Right. Now that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Another comment came through. It was talking about this. This is from Wesley. It says a role reversal that
Mhm.
allowed you to go
Mhm.
through what you went through and survive, and now be able to be the mother that she desires and deserves. So
Yeah.
great, great, great comment. I appreciate that comment as well as that question from you,
Yes.
Brandon. Thank you. I think it added a lot to that. Keisha, would you want to add anything to that question that she just answered?
I think she answered that beautifully. And to piggyback off of Wesley said what Wesley just said, I there are no words to express how grateful I am today to be able to be the mom that she needs me to be. Like, she's not just my daughter, like she's my best friend, and we have an amazing relationship. Like, we talk every day. We do everything together. I fly her out here whenever, and it's just we've got business plans together. We're planning to start a nonprofit, and it's going to be called Idols. And Idols is an acronym for I'm that one lost sheep. And that's the one lost
Mm.
sheep that they speak about in the Bible, because that's the one that most people don't worry about, but sometimes that's the most important one. And a lot of
When he
times
left
when
the
people are
99 to
struggling
find the one.
to find the
Yes.
one. So that's where we came up with Idols. And having been that lost sheep, I know what it feels like to be separated from the pack. So it's just to be sitting and making business plans with my daughter. And I tell my coworkers, well, when I start my business, my daughter can do this and my daughter can do that, and she's certified for this, she's certified for that. It's an amazing feeling. And Lamondre, I really feel like we are really gonna make a huge difference in the lives of other people, because this is something that you don't see that often. I deal with clients at several different treatment centers that I work. One of them is Pacific Shores. And it's like I see clients and they have damaged or tarnished the relationships that they have with their children, to the point where either they feel like it's irreparable,
Mhm.
or it's going to take years of therapy and treatment to even cross that threshold to where they're even able to just be civil to each other. And that can be very discouraging for someone newly in recovery and someone that's needing, that love and support from their children. But on the flip side of that, when we have hurt our children and neglected our children, and we have negated our responsibilities, we don't have the right to dictate the rate that they heal. So I
Right.
am very fortunate and very blessed that was not my experience, and that my, not just Ashley, but all of my children are very loving and very welcoming and very acceptive of me and my new existence, and super proud of me. So there's not a minute that goes by that I don't think about, how grateful I am, and I am super stoked about the
Yeah.
things that we're gonna do in this world, because I feel like we're like a dynamic duo. Like there's
Oh,
so much
absolutely.
knowledge between the two of us that is just that there's no way that we won't be able to help people.
And let me say this, Wesley. Someone Wesley just made another comment. He says, "I see a very bright future ahead of the two of you," and I can't help but agree with that. One of the things that we touched on in the podcast, and I do encourage people who have not seen the full broadcast to go back, because there's so much in
Mhm.
it that we can't do it. We can't go back into it tonight. But one of the things that we talked about in that was forgiveness.
Yes.
And, obviously, this is a big part of it for both of you, even. I really want us to just take a moment and talk about that for a moment. During the podcast, you talked about all the people you forgave, Keisha, but then at the end of it, you said, but the real struggle with forgiveness was Keisha. So talk about
It
that a little
was.
bit.
It was. It was a lot easier to forgive the people that hurt me. I mean, even the men that abused me. It was easier to forgive my mom. It was either, I mean, just about any and everybody, not just about everybody, everybody that hurt me, I was able to forgive them. And it wasn't that hard of a process, Lamondre, to be honest. I did what I call like a blanket forgiveness, because everything that had happened, the good, the bad, and the ugly, it's already been done. It
Yeah.
can't be undone. And whether they're apologetic or not apologetic, it's not going to remove what was done. So I forgave everybody. But even with that, there was a short, and like my wires, they weren't firing, because there was still just this gap, and I was becoming stagnant a little bit in my early recovery. And my therapist asked me, he said, have you forgiven yourself? What do you mean, forgive myself for what? And he just sat
Mm,
back and folded his arms up. And that's the first time I really thought about forgiving myself. The reason I feel like it was so much harder for me to forgive me is because I know all of it. Even when I share my story, and if I share my story 16 different times, there's still going to be tidbits that's going to get left out because of, my
right.
memory. It's been years, but consciously and subconsciously, I know every single thing that I have ever done. On top of that, there was the low self-esteem and the lack of self love, but definitely the lack of self knowledge. I didn't have any idea who I was, so there was no way for me to know what I was worth. I know things that I've been told and things that I've been called, but I didn't know who I was. I did not feel like I was worthy because of numerous reasons. My self esteem was at zero. Self-esteem and my appearance, they're not the same thing. I'm not saying I felt like I was ugly or this, that, and the third, because it was never that. I've always thought I was cute. But on the inside, I did not like myself at
Right.
all. And I cannot tell you all of the reasons why that was so. I can just tell you that's what it was. So, in me not liking myself, that made it so that I was not able to take care of myself. I can't take
Right.
care of something that I don't care about.
Right.
In recovery, I came to know myself, even though I didn't know who I was, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
I came
Absolutely does.
I came to know myself, meaning I know what I'm made of. I know what I'm capable of. Not knowing myself meant like I didn't know who I was going to be. I didn't know I was going to be Miss Keisha, and I was going to be living this life. Once I was able to process my self forgiveness, everything else was everything just started lining up, because once I forgave myself, I started to like myself.
Mm,
Once I started to like myself, I started to take care of myself. Once
right.
I started taking care of myself, I started to love myself.
Yeah.
And today I am falling in love with myself. I love the person that I am today, and I'm super excited thinking about the person that I'm going to be tomorrow. So yeah, self forgiveness was a struggle, but it's mandatory. It's
Absolutely.
mandatory.
So,
There is
Ashley,
no recovery without it.
there is no recovery without forgiveness. There
Nope,
is no
it's not going to
recovery
happen.
without forgiving yourself. Wow. That's a
Mm,
statement. That's a statement. Ashley, I want to turn to you because I want to talk to you a bit, or I want to hear your views on the forgiveness process that you had to go through. Because obviously, what you and your mother have shared, there was a lot of trauma. There was a lot of disconnection. In fact, your mother made one of the most startling statements that I ever heard when she said it's impossible for an addict
Mhm.
to form real bonds with anyone.
mhm,
And I never heard anything like that before. She said it with such conviction. And she said, and after I repeated it to her, she said, and I stand on that. So I know she meant exactly what she said. And she was an addict for at least 36 years with crack and longer than that with alcohol. So obviously there were some things that you had to forgive. What was that process for you in terms of that forgiveness process and where you are now?
Mhm. So for me, it took a lot of time and therapy, because it was a lot, that I was holding inside, a lot of resentments that I didn't realize was unforgiveness. Because for me, it manifested in different ways: anxiety,
Mm,
depression. So when people think unforgiveness, they usually think anger, animosity. But for me, it was different. And so a lot of
mhm,
my mental health, I had to do a lot of work on myself and realize, okay, this is something that I have not forgiven my mom for. I have an issue with this. I need to figure out how I can come to terms with this. So
right.
it wasn't really a moment where I was just like, Ma, I forgive you for everything. Because it was
mhm,
different for me. It was more so some mental health issues that I had to process through, going through therapy and making that connection with those issues to unforgiveness, and then going through that process, realizing that
Right.
it's not, me. I'm not broken. I'm
Mm,
not damaged. I have to forgive. So that's what my forgiveness journey is, and I'm still getting
mhm.
there.
right.
She's
I'm
so
nowhere
sweet.
near as anxious as I used to be as far as finances, because that did stem a lot from some things that my mom did, where financially I was in some tough situations and I just had to deal with it. And so I've had a lot of anxiety as far as my stability, um, going through that, but understanding that now I have control of my finances. My mom did what she did, acknowledging it, but knowing this is what I don't do next time. That is
Right.
kind of the route that I went for forgiveness, really just learning how to love myself and take care of myself. And in order to be able to do that, I had to acknowledge and recognize those barriers. And that
Right.
is how my unforgiveness showed in my life. And once I made that connection, it's still a journey, but
Right.
it's been smoother, and
Mhm.
a lot less heavy on me.
Right. Right. I tell you, it's the story is so many unimaginable things have happened, but just to see where the two of you are now and knowing the journey that it took to get there. So because we're running out of time, I want to get to this because this is the important thing for me. It's important. And I'm gonna start with you, Ashley. Ashley, if someone is living through addiction and they have a parent or a loved one who's dealing with that, give me some insight or give me some advice or give them some words of encouragement or something that will help them sustain while they're dealing with this addiction from someone that they love.
Mhm. Just know it won't be easy, and you are not crazy.
Absolutely.
Um, it is going to take time, and you just have to have patience and kind of see the bright side of the situation, even though it seems really bad. It's easy to be angry, it's easy to blame that person, it's easy to kind of sulk and be miserable because of the situation, but learning how to step outside of that and really see the situation for what it is. This is a person who is not well, and
Mm,
because
Yes.
they're not well, they're not going to be able to do what you expect them to do. Just like if
Yes.
you go to the
Yes.
store and you don't have any money, you can't buy anything. That's a fact. I mean, you can steal some
right.
stuff, but that's a different
Don't
story.
steal
It's not the same thing as being able to go and do what you need to do if you don't have the capacity to do it. So
Right.
Correct.
realizing that they don't have the capacity, and that's hard for some people to see and accept because of the hurt feelings that they have to deal with, wanting to trust that person and being disappointed. So that's another point that I will say too is you will be disappointed, but it's okay. Sit with that, acknowledge it, and
Um,
do what's in your power to do.
Right.
And pray for them, love them through it because that's what they need.
Love them through it and love yourself through that as well. Because obviously you just
Mhm,
talked about you dealing with the forgiveness thing and how it manifested itself in mental health issues and anxiety and all of those kinds of things. So even loving yourself through that to the point where you protect
mhm,
yourself in those situations
mhm.
is what I'm hearing. Thank you for that so much.
Absolutely.
Now, Miss Keisha,
Thank you.
if someone
yes.
is if someone is in the throes of addiction and they want a way out, but they're still dealing with that thing, the floor is yours.
Whew. There are so many avenues with that because there's wanting a way out and then there's needing a way out, and they're not necessarily the same thing. Unfortunately, Lamondre, for most of us addicts, we normally don't throw the towel in until we've been beat up pretty bad. We
Mm,
done lost a couple rounds because that's what makes us addicts. Like we will continue to do excuse me, we will continue to do the same thing in spite of the consequences, and we will continue to do the same thing and expect it to end up differently the next time that we do it. So, unfortunately, a lot of times it does take us to go a couple of rounds and lose a couple battles before we decide that we want to do something different or we need to do something different. For me, it was fear. And it was the fear of death. That's not the case for everybody, but most people have their rock bottom. And once you've met that, it's seeking the information The first thing is this: it's your mouth. You have to open your mouth and you have to tell somebody. You have to open your mouth and you have to ask for help, and then figure out or find out what your resources are, and what the options are for you to even begin the journey. Because sometimes it's not as simple as, okay, I'm just going to get off this stuff. Excuse me. Because if you're dealing with alcohol, or you're dealing with fentanyl, or you're dealing with heroin or Percocet, those things have a physical dependency, and stopping cold turkey could very well mean that you end up having a seizure, or possibly end up dying. So sometimes you have to go through that detox phase before you can even start your recovery journey. My suggestion would be to take a look around at where you are right now. And if this is not where you want to be and you want something different, then you have to know that it is possible. You have to know that there is a whole other world out there that's just waiting for you to join it. But you have to put in the work to do it. You have to be willing. You have to be open minded. You have to have a higher power. You have to sometimes let other people make decisions for you, because our decision making has been distorted for so many years. Sometimes we don't know what to do or what's best for us. Should I go left or should I go right? I don't know how to do this. For me, never having been sober as an adult, I didn't even know what to expect on the other side. But I don't walk in fear. I will hope that if there's someone out there, and if they don't know God, you need to call me and ask me about him, because I need to tell you about this man that will bring you through all of this. You just have to be willing. So if it's someone out there and you're struggling with addiction issues, I would hope you would take a look at my life and look at the mess that it recently was. I haven't even been out of that 2 years yet. I'm just at 21 months, and my life has taken on this whole life of its own, basically. And Lamondra, I know you don't like when I say there's nothing spectacular about me, but if I can do it, it can be done. And I will hope that you know that just because you suffer from the disease of addiction, it does not mean that you are less than anyone else. It does not mean that you are not worthy. It means that you have a disease and you need to get it treated. Treatment is available, and hope is on the other side of that. There are places like Pacific Shores here where I work. We'll bring you to us. Just realize you don't have to die in that addiction. You don't
Right.
have to die in it.
Right. And thank you for sharing that. Here's another question. This came from Coco. It says that you said you lost family and many loved ones. During that time, you truly loved those people. How and did they ever trust you again and see that person that you are?
The people that I lost, unfortunately, they are gone. When I say lost, I mean I lost these people to the grave. I mean, like ODing, alcohol, heart attacks from alcohol, heart attacks from drug usage, strokes, and things like that. Unfortunately, they are no longer here with me, but I like to believe that they do see it. They
Mhm.
do see it, and I celebrate their lives in things that I do and in things that I accomplish. Sometimes I look up and I'll be like, Rose, this is for you. Or like when I graduated, I told my sister Yvette, you never got your bachelor's degree, but I got one for both of us. So the losses
Mm.
that I incurred, those losses were to the grave. I am one of the fortunate ones, Lamondre, where 99% of my other well, all of my relationships with my children are well. And most of my family, 99% of my family and friends, I have made my amends, and we are good. There's going to always be that 1% that's not going to ever view me as anything other than Keisha the crackhead, Keisha the scammer, Keisha the prostitute, whatever. And I just can't focus on that, nor can I let that stop me from propelling myself forward. Instead of focusing on that 1%, I focus on the 99% that like to see me shine, and the 99% that count on me to come through with the come through, and Miss Keisha coming through with the come through.
But Keisha, I'm gonna tell you, you're right. I still disagree with you. You are absolutely spectacular, and it's not because of some whatever. You are just an absolutely wonderful person,
Oh,
and
wow.
even during the times when you were in the throes of your addiction, I saw that in you. I saw that light in you, and I am so thankful that I can share this platform with you to help people hear your story, to help people meet this wonderful woman that you birthed into this place, Ashley, and
Right.
how
Yes,
she's
my baby.
persevered and what she is able to do. I agree with
Great.
what Wesley said. I see an extremely bright future for the both of you, and we believe that that you're going to continue to do things to change lives. And so,
Definitely.
Keisha, you run a consulting company and a group company. It's called Serenity Groups and Consulting, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
I have I'll have all of her contact information in the in the notes for this. We had a technical
Yes.
difficulty earlier, which is why we were a couple of minutes late getting on the air,
Okay.
which prohibited that from happening because I would usually have a crawl going over here with all of our contact information on it. But
Okay.
Keisha's also an author. She has written a book. It's called Indicted, and I am going
Yeah.
to I want to put that up here so that if
Thank
anyone
you.
wants to get her book, it's available at Amazon and it's called
Thank
Indicted.
you.
This is the link for it. I think you can click on it on YouTube, but with Facebook, you might just have to take a screenshot and write the link down uh, to
Thank
get
you.
to get the book itself. And so I'm going to leave that up here for just a couple of more minutes. Um, Brandon Harris made another comment, and he says, "This is a
Okay.
great show. Ashley is absolutely a shero. Miss Keisha, I remember playing with your sons, and God is real.
Yes,
Amen."
he
And he
is.
says, "You are not the
Yes.
same lady. Keep on pushing." So a lot of encouragement, and that's been amen and
Amen.
all of
Yes.
that. And
Yes.
anytime that you all want to come and share on the platform, let me know, and we'll certainly make room for that because this is truly about changing people's lives.
Thank you, Lamondre. And I will definitely be taking you up on that. And I hope Ashley will as well, because I reiterate, as I stated earlier, we're really trying to get idols up and running. So we're looking for sponsors, we're looking for advice, we're looking for suggestions, any type of support that people want to give us, even if it's just positive, not even just positive words, motivation. We are looking for that. Idols will be coming soon. Ashley, we need to get this thing started. I want to thank you, Lamondre, for allowing me to tell my story. I want to say again, if there's somebody out there and you struggling with addiction, there is no shame. There is no shame in that. And I need for you to know that there is a whole other life out here is just waiting for you. Even if you've never been exposed to something different, be bold enough to take a chance on yourself. Believe in yourself enough to give yourself a chance at life, because it is worth living, and you are worth it. Our past does not dictate our future. It
Mm.
doesn't. Just because I've done bad things does not mean I'm a bad person. And the same thing goes for you guys. So I hope if there's anyone out there that's struggling, I hope that you'll reach out to me. And I promise you, if there's anything I can do to help you start your new journey, I'm on board to do that, because that's why God has blessed me and put me in the position that He has. My life is not my own. It's time for me to start paying some of my debts.
Mhm. Keisha, do me a favor. Go ahead and give them the number that they can contact you with, or either the email address that we would normally have crawling across the screen.
You can contact me at 803 242-0930. Again, that's 803-242-0930. And my email is KMSIMS112 at gmail.com. KMSIMS112 at gmail.com, or Serenity Groups 24 at gmail.com.
Yeah.
SerenityGroups24 at gmail.com. See, that's the easy one.
Yeah.
SerenityGroups at
Yeah.
gmail.com. So listen, ladies, again, thank you so much. I pray that as you watch this and listen to these two ladies talk about their experiences, talk about their lives, that you were inspired, that you were challenged, um, and that you realize that a little kindness goes a long way, and
It
that
does.
we have to find ways to look for the best in us. Because even with all that Keisha said that she did that was wild and all that kind of stuff, um,
Oh, yeah.
you see that she produced an incredible human being. You see that
I
she
did.
produced someone who is incredible. So what we do know is that just because things are probable has no comparison to what's possible. And so what we look for
Amen.
is what is
Love that.
possible. And I really hope you enjoyed this tonight. And please do me a favor. If you haven't done so, go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and like it. Why? Because what we want to do is we want to continue to bring you good programming. We want to continue to bring you things that help to change lives on a daily basis. And we can't do that without the support. So if you subscribe, I told you we have a goal. It's called Goal 141. That's 1,000
141.
subscribers on YouTube, 4,000 watch hours on YouTube, and 1,000 downloads or streams on the other audio platforms. And that's important to us because what we need to do is we need to keep getting good things out there, especially in the world that we live in now. And so,
Yes.
Keisha and Ashley, thank you so much. And beautiful
Thank
people,
you. Thank
until
you.
next
You're
time,
beautiful,
beautiful people.
Lamondre.
Well, thank you. I
And I love
appreciate
you.
it. Love you all as well. And as always, until next time, beautiful folks, I am Lamondre Pugh. And why not live this big, full, and authentic life that we always talk about? Until next time, God bless.